Welcome to another weekly 3-minute therapy podcast where we discuss REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy, from a fascinating perspective. And the we is me. I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein. I'm a clinical psychologist and author of the book 3-Minute Therapy, student and colleague of Albert Ellis, who devised this approach. And I'm here with Kevin Benbow, another superb REBT therapist. And Kevin, would you like to say a few things about yourself?
Certainly. My name's Kevin Benbow. I practice in both the states of Arizona and New Mexico. If you live in Arizona, I probably take your insurance. You can contact me through my website at www.cogyuma.com. And that's everything I do is by telehealth. So,
And while we're discussing websites, my website is 3minutetherapy.com. 3 is spelled out. 3-minute therapy is one word. And also my book is 3-minute therapy, where I discuss the subject of our YouTube podcasts.
so very good. So, Michael, curious. There are lots of different kinds of psychotherapies out there. Uh, People oftentimes, when I talk to people for the first time and tell them what I do and how we work, the big question I get is, what is rational emotive behavior therapy? How can you help me with it?
Oh,
Could you shed some light on that for us?
yes, very good. And then you could add to that, Kevin, as a practitioner. Rational emotive behavior therapy is a type of psychotherapy devised by Albert Ellis, Ellis, in the 50s, and which changed the course of the psychotherapy movement from more psychoanalytic traditional therapy to all the cognitive behavior therapies that therapists use now, or at least in part in their practice. And it says that our emotions don't come from situations. So if Kevin insults me and I feel hurt, his insulting me did not cause my hurt. Rather, my own thinking did. Our thinking creates our emotions, not situations. And that's a very powerful idea because we can change our thinking if our emotions are disturbed or consist of anxiety, depression, anger, guilt, or even we can change our behaviors because our behaviors come from our thinking, such as procrastination and addictions. So we have a lot of power. It's not necessary to sit in a therapist's office and talk about your childhood for years or talk about your feelings, but rather get at the root of your feelings, your thinking, and change that. Does that answer your question, Kevin?
It does. And I just like to dovetail in there and say that in my experience, the clients I work with that get better the fastest are the ones that work the hardest outside of the therapy room. The different, well, in this case, the therapy platform, because everything's online, but they're the ones that do the most diligent work on their irrational beliefs between sessions.
Yeah.
Just coming I've worked with different modalities in the past, and frankly, just coming and spilling your guts for an hour a week and then moving on really isn't going to affect a whole lot of change. So
Right.
that's that.
It
Mm-hmm.
might add a lot of change to your therapist's pocket, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to add much therapeutic change. And in terms of working their hardest on their irrational beliefs, there are a few things that could be said about that. One is working hard on irrational beliefs is generally two-pronged. One is questioning, challenging, and contradicting your irrational beliefs on a regular basis, daily, many times daily, often in writing as the most effective, and also changing your behavior, pushing yourself to take risks, risk disapproval, pushing yourself to face discomfort and difficulty rather than avoiding it. So those are the two main ways that you can work hard on your irrational beliefs. Today's subject is another way you can work hard on your irrational beliefs, and that's a technique that you can read about in my book, 3 Minute Therapy, called Debating Until You Win. And the way this works is you write down an irrational belief, such as, I need Kevin's approval. And then I write down a rational counter to that, such as one of the best counters is not contradicting it, but being an empiricist and asking, what's the evidence I need Kevin's belief? How is this a dire necessity? How does my preference to have Kevin's approval equal a demand, a must, a dire necessity? So those are some ways I can question my irrational belief.
I've used this debate until you win with several people, and it's still a little bit new to me, but I have to say it's been successful with everybody I've used it with so far, and that is no joke. Absolutely everybody I've used it with. That's not to say that it won't fail at some point, that somebody will not benefit from it, but so far so good. I like to describe it as it's almost like a play. When we were in school, we're all used to reading scripts. I use two abbreviations: I for the irrational mind, R for the rational mind. And we start with the irrational. The belief is Michael must not insult me. And then the rational mind comes back with, well, how can you guarantee that he won't insult you? And then we go back and forth. And all of us, well, I don't know everybody, but I would say just about all of us seem capable of going back and forth between our rational and irrational mind pretty effectively. And
Yes,
we
and the result of that, as is explained in the name of the approach, debating until you win, the result is you will always win the debate. And there's one reason you'll always win the debate: if you work at it and don't give up, because you have reality on your side. There's never any evidence for your dire necessities, musts, shoulds, awfuls, uh, global evaluations of yourself, others, or life. Those are all fictions. All musts and shoulds are fictions. There's no evidence for them. So that's why you'll always win the debate if you persist at it. And again, I recommend doing it in writing. And that's probably the most useful way to do it that most of my clients have found.
particularly this exercise, I really say it's important for it to be done in writing, because if not, uh, probably you'll just find yourself going in circles with it, because we don't have a good record of what the irrational mind previously said and what the rational mind said. One or two people I've done it with, this debate has gotten quite lengthy, taken up the entire length of a session where we've had almost 2 pages of back and forth. But what's really cool afterward is to look at what's on the paper there. And it's very easy to see that the irrational side of us has very superficial statements. They're not in, there's no depth, no real thinking at all. But when you look at the rational mind's response to them, there is thought. There is, as you're talking about, Michael, this empirical reasoning going on.
Hey, Kevin, how do you feel about demonstrating this strategy? One of
Mm-hmm.
us will be the irrational voice and the other will be the rational voice. So which, do you have a preference?
Yeah, I'd like to be the irrational voice. I'm really good at that.
Okay. So you start. What is an irrational statement you'd like to put forth?
Everybody must agree with me.
Okay, very good, very good.
Mhm.
That's a very good irrational belief. That's what I meant by very good. What is the evidence, Kevin? Everybody must agree with you, simply because it would be lovely if everyone agreed with you.
Because people just have to agree with me. I don't like it when they don't.
Well, you're saying everyone must agree with you because everyone has to agree with you. Well, that sounds like circular reasoning. It sounds like saying, uh, agree with me because I'm right, and I'm right because I said it, and I said it because I'm right. So, do you have a better argument than restating your belief that everyone has to agree with me?
I just hate it when people disagree with me. I absolutely hate it and I can't stand it.
Okay, so you can stand it when people disagree with you, but that also seems like circular reasoning. You're saying, I can stand it because everyone must agree with me, and everyone must agree with me because I can't stand it. So, what's some evidence that everyone must agree with you and you can't stand it when everyone doesn't agree with you?
Well, because I'm always right. And that's why people should agree with me.
But okay, you're always right. Now, I'd like to put forth that you're an imperfect human who acts imperfectly. You were born, raised, and will die with an imperfect brain. So, how can an imperfect human with an imperfect brain always be right?
Because I have to be right. Because if I'm not right, it means I'm stupid.
Oh, well, you restated your hypothesis. I have to be right. I am right. But what's the evidence? Oops, sorry. What's the evidence that because you prefer to be right, you have to be right?
I guess there really isn't any. I just want to be right.
Yeah. And why isn't there any evidence that because you want to be right, you have to be right?
Well, frankly, now that I think about it, because quite often I'm wrong.
Okay, very good. So reality gets in the way here. And
Reality gets in the way, right?
right, right.
And
So I think what we saw is that when you look at these beliefs from a reality point of view, from your experience, from your prediction that with an imperfect brain you're going to act imperfectly, that your musts and shoulds, I always have to be right, don't hold
Mhm.
up.
Right,
So,
right.
so
Mhm.
that's a great example. You did a great job there, Kevin, of being a representative of the irrational beliefs.
Oh, I have a black belt in thinking irrationally.
Great, great. Okay, but when you do debating until you win, you can
Mhm.
take those black belts in irrational thinking, toss them over your shoulder,
Mhm.
and floor them.
And I find this so useful for myself because, and I don't know if you experience this, Michael, but when I'm managing my own irrational beliefs, the 3 minute exercise all by itself, we go A, B, C, D. That's very good, but quite often, my beliefs tend to the irrational beliefs tend to come out almost like I'm being hit by machine gun fire. And so being able to just express all of them and then respond to all of them as I debate, I feel like I'm able to cover quite a bit more ground when my thinking is like that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. So uh, we've discussed the 3 minute exercise, the ABCDEF, and we'll be discussing that more. But if you try that and you're not making headway, then try the debating until you win.
Mhm.
And if you try both and you're not making headway, let us know in the comments below, and we will have you as a guest on a future podcast, and you can debate us. Also, we'll debate you out of any irrationalities because we've been practicing debating irrationalities for many, many, many years. Well, thanks, Kevin, for participating in this. And so that's Kevin Benbow, an REBT therapist. I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein, another REBT therapist, author of 3 Minute Therapy. Uh, this has been the 3 Minute Therapy podcast. If you have questions, comments, disagreements, put it in the comments spot below. Also, donate to Patreon to help support these podcasts if you like them, if you find them helpful. and watch them regularly to stay on the rational side of life.